As Connecticut voters entered the polls this past Tuesday, they were met with a single ballot measure to vote on, referred to as the Early Voting Amendment. This measure proposed an increase to the state's power to expand early and absentee voting.
Trying to increase the availability of absentee voting, which means, of course, the amount of time and reasons that people can vote before Election Day. So they're trying to eradicate the reasons. Right now, they're sort of restricted. You either have to have an illness or very specific reasons can you use the absentee voting. They're trying to sort of eradicate those restrictive reasons and make it more available for many people to vote before the Election Day. But you have to remember about the absentee ballots. You know, it takes a little bit of wherewithal to do that. You have to know that it exists. You have to find out the process for getting your absentee ballot, go through the process, the bureaucracy of getting it, right? You have a little bit more time then to think about the ballot and what's on it, and perhaps do a little bit more educated vote, as opposed to, as I was just describing, people just arrive in the polls one day and they see things there that they don't know anything about. So you have it at home, able to take a little bit more time with it. Make sure you fill it out correctly, make sure it gets back in the mail, that you have the stamp, right? That just takes a little bit of energy and initiative that I think a lot of people might not have. And so the ones that's, and I mean, this can be sort of sad to say, but a little bit people with a little higher education can usually navigate those bureaucracies a little bit better. So the ones with a little bit higher education are more likely the ones to utilize the absentee ballot system and the absentee voting.
Ballot Measure 1, which was defeated in the polls by a margin of 5%, had supporters on both sides of the issue. While many hoped to see an expansion of voting options, others thought the measure was too vague and would not be implemented properly.
So obviously some of the pros are that it could potentially increase voter participation and people actually having a voice in our democracy and election process, which we think is a good thing. Many people find it very difficult. For our system, we go to the polls one day, right? Tuesday. You're supposed to be able to be let off work and not be penalized, which is hard sometimes for people to do that. Right? Just sometimes it's difficult for people to get to the polls on that one day. So this increasing the, sort of lessening the restrictions for doing the absentee voting, which of course is what you get a ballot, you do it before the election day and you mail it in, right? So more at your leisure. It takes a little bit of effort to do it, but a little bit more at your leisure can potentially increase people voting and making it easier for them. So we think that's a good thing, generally, right? So if they do it right, it's a good thing. If they do it poorly, right, if people then rely on using an absentee ballot as opposed to going to the polls that day, and then they're not really counted or collected or not kept up with well, it's going to turn out to be a negative thing.
Question 1 on the ballot. 83 blanks. Yes, 531. No, 502.
Connecticut's Ballot Measure 1 stands in stark contrast to the policies held in some other states, which restrict voter turnout.
We hear about many states that are trying to restrict access to the polls through usually increasing ID restrictions. We've had restrictions in terms of kicking people off the voter registration list in greater numbers than what we've seen before, making it more restrictive in terms of who's on the list. So Connecticut, as he says, seems to be moving the other direction in terms of trying to increase voter participation. And that's very nice to see in terms of combating some of the, again, the direction in the past we're seeing in other states. So it does seem to be, if they're representative of the two parties, a very partisan divide in terms of support or not supporting the ballot initiative.
The Early Voting Amendment likely was affected by issues that often arise when it comes to ballot measures in America.
The other point is about ballot initiatives in general. They're always problematic. Unfortunately, they're always problematic. Most people don't know about them. I've never heard of them. They go to the polls and here's these ballot initiatives. They have no idea how to vote on them. We don't usually understand them quite often with the way it's worded. We've had cases before where the way something was worded, people thought they were voting for it, when actually the way they voted was actually against it.